Welcome to the ninth episode, United Talk, everybody. We've decided to change up our routine by making an episode after every game as opposed to what we did before, which was every week. So we played West Ham yesterday, and let's talk about that, Annie.
Hey guys, the FA Cup replay at Old Trafford secured by the brilliance of RVP at Upton Park, and a 1-0 victory similar to the match we played against them in the league at Old Trafford. Scored an early goal, and we never really got going after that, but the early goal was quite impressive. Anderson, fantastic burst of pace in the middle of the park. He's capable of that. He's one of a few central midfielders who can beat a man. And he's given a great through ball to Hernandez, who's
super pass.
and he's had a great first touch, Hernandez, because he's released the ball in front of him in space, ran through, slided across to Rooney, and we're up 1-0 in 9 minutes.
And then what happened after that, Annie?
Well, I thought West Ham grew into the game, and we never really got going. Our tempo was quite slack, especially in the second half. I thought they really pressed us quite well, and our defense, actually, credit to them, stood strong. I was quite impressed with Smalling and Jones,
which hasn't happened many times this season.
Yeah, and that's something that's one positive we can take away from the game. Also, players returning from injury, so maybe they weren't at full sharpness. Nani, Rooney, Valencia still going through a bad patch of form, but he needs to play his way out of it. So I was glad that Fergie gave him some game time yesterday. And but I thought in the second half, our standout player was Ryan Giggs. I thought he was phenomenal. As the game went on, he just grew and grew in his presence, and he shifted out to the left wing. In the second half after the substitution.
We haven't seen him there for so long now.
Yeah, and he actually looked like our best left winger in the squad. He was brilliant. He was dropping his shoulder, jinking in, jinking out, crossing his left foot. He gave us a natural width, and I thought he was phenomenal. We had a penalty in the second half, which Rooney missed. More on that later. But what did you make of the game?
To be honest, I was relieved in the end. I think to get a 1-0 win and move on to the next round is really all I was hoping for. Yeah. I wasn't expecting a whitewash of any sort. I wasn't expecting a tight game. And plus, looking at Big Sam's team selection, I realized that he wasn't really going towards looking for a win as well.
Yeah, he had Noel on the bench. He had a couple of other players on the bench. So.
Yeah, Mark Noel. I mean, these are like West Ham regulars.
Yeah.
They play week in, week out.
Yeah.
So I think Big Sam is focusing on the Premier League now, where they've got a bunch of, they've got a pretty packed schedule and a bunch of difficult games coming up against QPR and that lot. So I was fairly confident that we would win this game, and especially 9 minutes in when Wayne Rooney scored. Yeah. Credit to Javier Hernandez. I thought he did very well to unselfishly pass to Rooney. Yeah. There's more to that man than just goals. Yeah. I've come to realize that in the last few weeks that Javier Hernandez does have another dimension to his game, which I didn't think he had before.
Yeah, I think he's making conscious effort to improve that, so that's good to see.
Yeah, I think that's what every player should strive to do. Not be one-dimensional, but improve as they go along in their careers.
Yeah.
And you were right to say, yes, West Ham did grow into the game. I thought Carlton Cole was very efficient up front, constantly making a nuisance of himself, running here and there, bothering the defense. Yeah. And, on another day, West Ham might have actually secured a draw.
Yep.
I think Matt Taylor had a good chance where he should have shot, but he instead tried to cross to Vaste.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, United had the chance to wrap up the game, but then Rudy missed the penalty. Shocking stuff there.
Yeah, and his conversion rate now is some cause for concern. But it's difficult to say because I always thought he was reliable, and I don't think that any of his missed penalties, have actually cost us points. But of course, we can't keep taking those chances.
Yeah, that's true, but the thing about Rooney is he's got great technique, and as such you'd expect a player like him with great technique and great, composure to be putting away penalties on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But if you look at his stats, he scored 17 of his last 26 penalties for United.
Yeah.
That's a conversion rate of 65%.
Yeah.
And that is nowhere near what you'd expect from your top choice penalty taker.
Absolutely. Would you say that we need to give the penalty duties to RVP? Because he's a regular. I would say Giggs is the best penalty taker at the club, but he's not a regular in the team.
Yes, definitely. But exactly. And so while RVP is the regular, if you remember, he missed his first penalty for United against Southampton. Yeah. That ridiculous Panenka penalty. Yeah. But he scored against Liverpool from the penalty spot, and in general, I think he's rather dependable. He was the first choice penalty taker for Arsenal as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So perhaps RVP should be allowed to take the penalties from now on.
Yeah. Who are your top 3 players from the West Ham game?
My top 3. I enjoyed Giggs' performance. I thought he rolled back the years with some great passing in the first half, and the occasional burst of pace in the second half, which you didn't think you still have at 39 years old.
Absolutely.
I also really enjoyed Anderson. Well, in the first half at least, I thought he was playing with great energy, considering he's returning from injury.
Yeah.
And if he could recapture the form that he had before his injury, I'd be very happy because Anderson has always had great potential.
Yeah.
I think that's what Fergie saw when he brought him in.
Yeah.
And so, Anderson was my number 2, and for number 3, I'd have to go with Nani.
Yeah.
He's equal parts brilliant and frustrating.
Absolutely.
Where you'd expect Nani to go on a run, beat 5 defenders, and then blast a shot wide. But I thought Nani yesterday, not a bad game, not a good game, but I thought he did well returning from injury. Tested the keeper a couple of times.
Yeah.
Always dangerous cutting in from the left.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he gains more confidence, and if Fergie continues to trust in him, I think he could potentially be a good player for us this season.
Absolutely.
How about you? Your top 3?
I would agree with Giggs with you, definitely. Second half, I thought it was a Giggs show. Is phenomenal. And the last 2, I think, Smalling and Jones. I was quite impressed with Phil Jones in the first half, especially whenever he made a tackle, he always tried to play the ball out rather than just booting it into the stands. And in the second half, I thought Smalling did well on a couple of occasions. One occasion where Nolan was looking like he was through on goal, and he tried to go past Smalling, and Smalling stood firm. So I was pretty impressed with him. He was first to every ball. And happy with the defense, clean sheet. So I'd say Giggs, Smalling, and Jones. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right.
And, of course, action around in the rest of the league as well. Chelsea playing at home to Southampton. Everyone expected a routine home win, but that was not the case. What did you make of that game?
Chelsea, wow. 2-0 up at halftime, of course.
Yeah.
With the goals from Demba Ba, who's, by the way, scored 3 in his last 2 for Chelsea. Very impressive. And then Eden Hazard right on the stroke of halftime.
Yep.
So, 2-0 up against a relegation-certain team. It should have been game over, but Southampton, credit to them, came back in the second half.
Yeah.
An impressive goal from Ricky Lambert.
Absolutely.
Who had just been on the pitch for like 2 or 3 minutes when he scored.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jason Punchin scoring to make it 2-2, and I think Chelsea will definitely be very disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
And I think their manager should absolutely be disappointed with this team. I mean, come on. This is Chelsea. It's a title-winning team. It's got great potential, and yet you're dropping points. I mean, I understand United had a hard time against Southampton as well, but that's the difference between champions and contenders.
Absolutely, and I think the interesting thing here is if you contrast Chelsea's home form versus their away form, it's clear that the crowd, with their hating of Benitez and their posters against him, their chanting against him, it is severely impacting the players and their performances at home. They've already won more of away games this season than the whole of last season, 7 versus 6. They were impressive. They beat Stoke, which had the third best defense in the league. They beat them 4-0. They won away at Norwich, something which Man City struggled to do, something which we lost. So a game which we lost. They won away at Everton 2-1, which is again very impressive. They beat Southampton in the FA Cup, thrashed them 5-1 away from home. But they lost to QPR at home, and now they've drawn versus Southampton at home. And it's clear that the players are struggling to perform at Stamford Bridge.
That's so surprising, because considering how Stamford Bridge was a fortress for so long, all during the Mourinho era, and then as far as Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah.
And now it's just become, a place where Chelsea look like they hate to play.
Yeah,
players are low on confidence, and this is the time where a true fan shows his true colors, or her true colors, and gets behind the team, gets behind the manager, make a late push for the title.
Absolutely.
That's what they should be doing, but the fans aren't doing their job.
And I think, give, as you said, a lot of credit to Southampton, and they're on a good run of form now. They beat Villa away on the weekend, and they've only suffered 2 defeats in the last 12 matches now, so their push for survival is really taking off.
I'm really impressed with Southampton this season. I think they don't deserve to be where they are. I think they gave Manchester United a run for their money when they played them.
Yeah, even City at Etihad.
Yes, and plus I'm a big fan of their manager Nigel Adkins, and of a few particular players as well. Ramirez from Bologna, who they signed for the club record fee, is a great player. I really admire him.
Yeah.
And the entire defense of Southampton, Nathaniel Klein, Josh Hoyveld, who was impressive last night as well.
Klein getting an assist yesterday as well for Lambert's goal.
Yep, and I think it would be a great shame if they got relegated.
Absolutely, yeah. And Arsenal playing Swansea, another FA Cup replay at the Emirates. Jack Wilshere with a late goal to put Arsenal through. They struggle just like us, really. 1-0 victory. They'll be glad to be in the next round. What did you make of that?
Well, there's been so much said about Arsenal, about how they are inconsistent, they lack form at the right time, this, that. But credit to them. I mean, it was a 1-0 win against arguably a pretty decent team.
Yep.
A team was beaten them earlier this season, 2-0.
Yeah.
and a team with great players. And I think credit to Swansea, they tried their best, but Arsenal are through, and I think that's what they'll be happy about, regardless of by how much they won.
Absolutely.
And it's good to see Jack Wilshere score again. He's one of the bright talents in
England.
England.
He was their best player by far last night. Walcott and Giroud were quite wasteful, but Wilshere really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, and he deserved his goal, and sent Arsenal through now.
Coming back from injury for 18 months, I mean, this kind of time, most players think about retiring.
Yeah.
But I think he's shown great strength of character, great courage to come back, and now he's helping out his team as they make, a push, maybe not for the title, but maybe for a domestic cup, which they haven't won in
8 years
what's
now?
that? 8 years now?
Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right then, let's talk about the rest of Europe now. Big news coming yesterday. Pep Guardiola has agreed to join Bayern Munich as head coach in the summer. What do you make of that?
Well, he played a blinder to the press, teasing them in the morning about wanting to come to England and how he's going to come to England in the summer, and now he's going to join Bayern Munich. So I would have to say it's a great signing for Bayern Munich.
Oh, definitely.
And a great loss for perhaps Chelsea. I'm sure Rafa Benitez will be sleeping a little more soundly at night. But I'm not sure, because Pep Guardiola is the kind of coach who would like to sort of build a long-term project, and I don't know what sort of support he's going to get for that at Bayern Munich. He was obviously a legendary player at Barcelona, so he had a lot of influence in the club. Whether he can get the same influence at Bayern remains to be seen, but he's got a lot of respect in the game, and I think Bayern are going to be a force next season. They definitely have very good players who will perform.
Definitely, and I think Bayern Munich is probably one of the top two clubs Guardiola could have joined, the other being Real Madrid, where he would really flourish. Now, bear with me when I say he would flourish at Real Madrid, because despite all the Barcelona hate, despite his personal differences, Real Madrid are a club with a lot of money. They're a club with a good youth academy, and they're a club which have solid foundations. And the same with Bayern Munich. The only difference is that in Bayern Munich, there is no rivalry that Pep Guardiola has with anybody.
Yeah.
And their board is filled with ex-players, and Pep Guardiola, being an ex-player, has common ground with them.
Absolutely, that's true.
Now, if he had joined Chelsea, here's what would happen. He would have 10 games to start his rebuilding project, and if he lost more than 2 of those 10 games, he'd be out.
Yeah.
So I think Guardiola's made the right decision, joining the biggest club in Germany.
Yeah.
And I'm really scared. I'm scared of Bayern Munich right now. I can't imagine what they would be like with Pep Guardiola at the helm. Because he's a marvelous man manager.
Absolutely.
You could manage the hell out of Ribéry, Robben, all these players that have ego issues and, they're difficult to deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Guardiola could definitely manage them really well.
Well, that's something we really got to keep an eye on, and it should be really exciting next season in Germany. But Real beating Valencia 2-0 in the Copa del Rey, trying to get into the semi-finals. They've suffered some difficult form in the league, but sort of getting back on winning ways at least.
Going strong. Well, I think realistically speaking, the Copa del Rey is probably the only cup they can go for this season.
Yeah.
I'm hoping United can beat them in the Champions League and move on to the next round.
Yeah.
And I think it's a distinct possibility. I mean, the league is out of the question now.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, unless short of a spectacular collapse in form by Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, they're not going to be winning the league. So I think a 2-0 win in the first leg of the Copa del Rey against a good team, Valencia, is, I think, a morale-boosting win for Real Madrid.
Absolutely.
And they could potentially go and challenge for the cup. And also Barcelona drawing in the other semi-final against Malaga.
Yeah. Well, I was also seeing that if Real go on to meet Barcelona in the semis, their fixture list would sort of read like Barca, Man United, Barca, Man United, Barca, because they have to play Barca in the league as well in March. And play them over 2 legs in the Copa del Rey semi-finals, and of course playing United in February. So exciting times ahead if they do make it, and that's what the second half of the season is about. It's about playing the big games.
Exactly. I mean, how long can you keep dodging the big games? I mean, it's not like you can expect an easy game every time.
No.
If you want to be a champion, you have to beat the best.
Absolutely.
To be the best, you have to beat the best. And I think Real Madrid should really focus on doing that now.
Yeah. And moving on to our player salute for this week. AK, would you like to do it?
I would love to do it. Our player salute this week goes to Ricky Lambert. It's so difficult playing in a team that has just been promoted, a team with no real superstars to talk about, a team with not a lot of money to spend, and a team who will most likely be involved in a relegation battle.
Yeah.
and all those things that happened to Southampton. But despite all the troubles that Southampton have been through, be it bad luck, be it, coming up against better teams, Lambert has been delivering game in, game out.
Absolutely.
Came on and scored yesterday, just minutes after coming on, to make it 2-1 and ignite the comeback, which they ended up drawing. And if you look at Lambert, he's somewhat of a journeyman striker. He's played at Blackpool, Macclesfield Town, Stockport County, Rockdale, Bristol Rovers. These are like Division 2, Division 3, League 1, League 2 teams.
Yeah.
So, this guy is a born winner.
Absolutely.
This guy gives his all every game, and he scored 10 league goals already this season, which is very impressive for, a relegation-threatened team.
Yeah.
And, yes, I would love to salute Ricky Lambert. I think
in fact, if you look at the difference between Southampton and, let's say, some of the other relegation-threatened teams, I would say Southampton have an advantage and they have a striker who is performing. Reading, I know I have Pogrenback, but he's not been doing really well. And to have a striker who can guarantee you 15 goals, as Lambert is probably going to do this season, 15 or 20 goals, that's a big bonus.
Big bonus. And I'm reading an incredible stat here. Lambert hasn't missed a penalty for Southampton.
Wow.
31 penalties in all competitions. Incredible.
Wow. I think we should sign him for taking our penalties, maybe.
Oh, just for the penalties, though, right? Bring him on to take the penalties, yes. All right, then we've got a big game coming up this weekend. Spurs at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat us earlier this season, so your predictions for this game, Annie?
Well, Spurs are a very exciting team, but we have a great record at White Hart Lane. I think we'll be looking to get revenge for the loss earlier on in the season, and I think it's going to be a very tight game, but I would say 2-1 to United.
Wow, you're a bit more optimistic than I am. I mean, for all of their shortcomings, Spurs have been they've been playing really well this season, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a bit of patchy away form back early in the season when Villas-Boas was getting settled in.
Yeah.
But recently they've been just off the charts.
Yeah.
Aside from that disappointing draw at QPR where they drew 0-0.
Yeah.
And I think Spurs could give United a run for their money and possibly, I wouldn't say sneak a win. I think you were right about the White Hart Lane record.
Yeah.
I think United are at great form right now.
Yeah.
Just beat Liverpool, beat West Ham,
True.
so we're going well. And it depends on the team selection, really, because if you look at it, players like Rooney, Nani, Valencia, Giggs, they just played.
Yeah.
They played yesterday, which is a Wednesday. And to be asking them to play, a high tempo, high pressure game in 3-4 days is a bit too much to ask for.
Yeah.
Perhaps I would imagine most of them will be rested.
Yeah.
Meaning that, it'll probably be Danny Welbeck partnering RVP up front unless Rooney decides to play.
Well, I think Rooney's the kind of player who, the more games he plays, the more fit he becomes. Fergie said that earlier on the season as well. So I would be expecting Rooney to play. I'm more worried about centre of midfield because Dembele dominated us at Old Trafford.
Oh, definitely.
And I want Carrick and Cleverley to be playing on the weekend.
And I think they will because they were rested for the West Ham game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be a bit more pessimistic and say it's going to be a draw, 2-2.
All right.
I think Spurs are going to score twice, but I'm pretty sure United are going to score twice at least.
All right.
And it depends on what kind of form our defense is really, not their defense, our defense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Vidic and Rio once again in the heart of it. Mm-hmm. Lastly, guys, a bit of promotion as usual. Please follow us on Twitter at UnitedTalk19. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the weekend. Bye.
Thank you, guys.